Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric from Rare Candy here. Today we are back with another Unified Minds deck profile. This, of course, is going to be for the post-rotation format, and today we're going to be looking at the new Haxorus. And actually, too, this is the same list that we did recently use in our testing rounds video we uploaded this past week as well. So if you guys do want to see how this deck looks in action, I'll have a link down below in the description for you guys to check that out if you do want to. Another thing worth pointing out too, if you're unfamiliar with those testing rounds videos we do, they usually kind of feature some of our early, more unrefined lists that we usually use to start testing with. So that means there might be a few things in here that potentially can be tweaked or improved upon. Just something to keep in mind as we do go through this deck profile that we have here. So Haxorus is going to be, of course, the star of the show that we're going to be talking about today. And this is a Stage 2 deck. So, of course, before we get to Haxorus, we need ourselves some Axius. So playing 4 copies of this one does have an ability that is worth pointing out. It does prevent the effects of your opponent's items and supporters, I believe it is, done to Axew here. So not quite as relevant since Guzma just rotated, but nevertheless, it's still definitely a pretty solid ability that we have here compared to what you get on a lot of these like low HP basics. So up next from there, we have 2 copies of Fracture. That, of course, is going to be the Stage 1 that we have here. Nothing too special about this guy. We just need it to get up to Haxorus sometimes. First attack, 30, and then I believe it takes 30 less damage on your opponent's next turn. So it's okay, but ideally we never want to attack with this guy. And we can do 70 damage as well, but yet again, not really trying to attack with Fracture if we don't have to. But of course, the main attacker of deck is going to be Haxorus. So of course we have 4 copies of this guy here. New Stage 2 Pokemon, actually kind of similar to the Charizard from Team Up. It reminds me of that a little bit. I think there's definitely pros and cons to both of them. But here for Haxorus, 150 HP, Dragon type, weak to Fairy, 3 retreat cost, but it has this ability. You can discard a stadium that's in play, and then from there you can attach 3 basic energies from your hand to Haxorus, which is kind of nice. So you have a little bit of built-in energy acceleration. We play, several stadiums. A lot of other decks will be playing stadiums, so pretty decent ability. And then the attack for a metal and fire does 10 plus 40 for each different basic energy, or not different, but each basic energy attached to Haxorus. So just run through the math a little bit there. If you have 5 basic energies, you can do 10, and then from there you can start getting into like tag team knockout range. So 6 energies will be 250. That will allow you to knock out things like Pikarom, which is probably the most notable Pokemon in that HP range, and then from there you can even get higher than that to knock out other stuff like Reshiram Charizard, just as an example. So you do need a good bit of energy on this guy to do that, but we have this ability. We have Welders in the deck, which you'll see. So we do have some ways to get this guy up and running, pretty quickly. So this is what the entire deck is going to be based around, but we do have a number of different support Pokemon. The main one, of course, going to be Jirachi. We're playing 4 copies of Jirachi. And as you've noticed, probably a lot of my like post-rotation deck list playing a heavy count of Jirachi here, just because a lot of decks are going to be reliant on Pokemon Communication, and Pokemon Communication is basically only a good card if you run around 20-ish Pokemon in your deck. So that's why we're maxing out the Jirachis here. Helps us start with it a little bit better as well. But of course, for that Stellar Wish ability, allows us to dig 5 cards deep and find a trainer card. So of course we can grab rare candies, maybe some stadiums in the mid to late game. Just a nice consistency boosting card that we have here. And then from there, we have just a couple of other support Pokemon. We have 1 copy of Ditto Prism Star. So this is basically just going to be a 5th Axew in the deck. We don't have Rescue Stretcher anymore, so we can't really effectively recycle our evolutions and even pre-evolutions as much as we would have pre-rotation. So we have the Ditto, like I said, just filling the role of a 5th Axew. Next up, we have 1 copy of Victini Prism Star. This is really our only backup attacker in the deck here. Victini Prism Star definitely has some good synergy with Haxorus though. So for 2 fire, you do 20 times the amount of basic energy in your discard pile, and then you shuffle them all back into your deck. So this isn't limited just to fire. This will work even on those metal energies that we're running for our Haxorus, which is really, really nice. So not only can we, maybe take a decent knockout, maybe not on a tag team or anything, but we can probably get a knockout with this Victini and then get all of our energies back. And that is definitely an issue this deck has, is running out of energy. So the Victini really does help it out a lot in the late game there. Next up, we have 1 copy of Mew. for that bench barrier ability, so will of course stop bench damage done to us. This is most notably going to be for Pikachu Zekrom, just because Tag Bolt actually is super good against this deck. If they can knock out our active Haxorus and another Axew on the bench, it's just pretty impressive, especially like I said, since we are in a format that won't have anything like a Rescue Stretcher to be able to recycle our Pokemon very easily. So that's really the main matchup it's going to be there for. There might be other random things that it'll help with, but like I said, mainly going to be for Pikarom. And then from there, our last Pokemon is going to be one copy of the Dene GX. Of course, for that Dene change ability, it allows us to discard our hand, draw 6 cards. So this is going to be just to help us dig on certain turns, maybe to hit that last energy, or maybe that stadium that we need to get our last energies in play with Haxorus. So, like I said, just to dig a little bit deeper, and also we can communication for it and bail us out of a dead hand sometimes. So going on to our trainer cards, we do have 4 copies of Welder, as I mentioned here. So of course you guys are probably familiar with this guy at this point, or actually gal at this point, because Welder is a female in the full art version. But anyways, you attach 2 fire from hand to one to your Pokemon, draw 3 cards. So without Welder, we don't really have a great way at getting a Haxorus fully powered and able to one-shot a tag team in one turn. So with Welder, your manual attachment, and your ability on Haxorus, you can actually get one powered up out of nowhere and even one-shot something like a Pikarom, which is really nice. So we definitely need this to stream attackers throughout the course of the game. Also good, we can power up Victini Prism Star in one turn as well. But from there, we have 3 copies of Lily, and then also 3 copies of Cynthia to round out our draw supporters that we have here. So pretty streamlined supporter line that we have. We do also run some stadiums, of course, because we do need to discard them to activate Haxorus' ability. And the first of which we're going to be looking at is going to be 2 copies of the new Giant Furnace, or Big Oven. I'm really not sure what this thing's going to translate to just yet, but definitely a very good stadium, particularly for this deck and many other fire decks. But it's kind of like a Viridian Forest on steroids. You discard a card from your hand, then search your deck for 3 fire energy, which is perfect both for Welder and also for Haxorus. So Haxorus, we can activate Giant Furnace, search for those 3 energies, discard the stadium, and attach all 3 to Haxorus. Or of course with Welder, we can Welder 2 of them and then attach 1 for turn. So just a lot of synergy with some of these different cards that we have. Nevertheless, though, we are still playing 1 copy of Viridian Forest, just because we do need to get metal energies on Haxorus as well. And unfortunately, Giant Furnace will not actually search those out of our deck. So the searching effect isn't quite as strong on Viridian Forest, but it is a little bit more flexible. And then from there, we also have 1 copy of Mount Coronet as well. This is another way to potentially find our metal energies. It will allow us to put 2 metal energies from our discard pile back into our hand. This will make sense. Our Haxorus are going to be getting knocked out, so this will allow us to get them back at some point without having to pivot into Victini Prism Star at that point. So from there, going on to our item cards, we have 4 copies of Rare Candy, of course, to skip those pesky stage 1s, go right into our Haxorus. So of course, just helping us get out our evolutions a bit quicker. We do also have 4 copies of Pokemon Communication, probably the best generic search style card that we have in this new post-rotation format. We of course have to put a Pokemon from our hand back into our deck, and then we get to search our deck for any Pokemon that we want. And then from there, we also have 3 copies of Mysterious Treasure as well. We are leaning a little bit heavier on the communications just because there are several non-dragon, non-psychic Pokemon, like our Jirachis, like the Dene, like Victini. So Mysterious Treasure won't allow us to find those. So that's why I am choosing to lean a little bit more heavily on the communications in this list. We also have 2 copies of Skateboard just to provide free retreat, most notably for our Jirachis. Even when it's asleep, we can still move it out of the active spot at some point. And then we have 2 copies of Fire Crystal as well to round out our trainer cards. So we get 3 fire energies from the discard pile back into our hand, obviously to re-accelerate with Haxorus' ability or Welder if we choose to. So we do commit a lot of energies at a given time to Haxorus whenever we attack. So typically we do have a lot of energies hitting the discard pile at a single time in this deck, which Fire Crystal is going to be nice at retrieving throughout the game. Then going on to our energy cards, guys, we have 4 copies of Metal Energy. We're playing kind of the low count, of course, just to fulfill the attack cost on Haxorus. We only have 4 Haxorus to work with, so we have basically one Metal Energy to correspond to each one here. From there, we also have plenty of fire energy, though. We have 3, 6, 9 copies of Fire Energy in total in this deck to round out our list. We do need a decent bit just to make sure we can draw into it, to abuse with Welder and things like that. But yeah, guys, that is going to be the list we are going to be trying out for Haxorus. Like I said, this is very similar to the Team Up Charizard. That's actually another archetype I wouldn't mind testing a bit for this post-rotation format. I'm not sure if this is better than that deck, though. You do have access to Mysterious Treasure, which is really nice, but outside of that, Charizard seems like it might be a little bit more consistent, so we'll have to see which of those archetypes, if either is viable, will kind of emerge victorious. But yeah, if you are a fan of Haxorus, this is definitely, I think, probably the best Haxorus we've had as far as I can remember, as far as, you know, as long as this Pokemon has been, you know, in existence. So if you have been waiting a long time for a good Haxorus, this is the time to finally try one out, I think. But yeah, guys, hope you did enjoy this look at this Haxorus deck. If you did enjoy this content, feel free to like and subscribe. And if you can, consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or by picking up some merch from our online store at rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.